This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers, that is 2-3 page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 489, part 2, entitled, Masculists have the option to be much nastier to women than feminazis are to men. Continuing straight on. For example, imagine the following scene in some public talk at some university, where the female speaker, a typical monoconscious feminazi, makes some derogatory remark about men, such as, quote,
"Men are pigs, men are rapists, men are toxic, women should destroy the patriarchy, men are the warmongers," etc. Then a masculist in the audience can give her a taste of her own medicine, and since he is male and intellectually armed with masculist ideas, open brackets, which give him the conviction that men have the right to be much angrier at women than vice versa, since women oppress men far worse than vice versa, since women's gender crimes against men are far worse than vice versa. For example, the decades-lasting fluffie manslavery of men, women's decades-lasting paternity fraud, women's pill lying, women's profoundly hypocritical opposition to the legislation of the that's paternity rejection right, that the masculists are pushing for, given that women have the maternity rejection right, so that a woman can lie to her man that she's taking the pill, but isn't, because she wants to get pregnant, then forces him by law to pay for a kid he never wanted in the first place, thus manslaving him for decades of his life, a major gender crime against men in the eyes of the masculists, close brackets. Then that masculist can feel free to wipe the floor with that monoconscious feminazi, chewing her out mercilessly. Us masculists have a hatred of fluffy manslavers and fluffy feminist hypocrite genociders, and do not hold back when the time comes to lash out violently at them in public. So, once the female speaker has made her misandrous remark, imagine the reaction of the masculist in the audience, who then stands up and bites her fucking head off, using his full male anger and hatred at her, scaring the shit out of the women in the audience, who are then jolted into recognition that something has changed, that women, that feminists no longer have a monopoly over gender politics, and that a new force, a new male gender political ideology is now on the scene, which will change gender politics forever. Just what might this angry, hateful masculist say to her? Here's a sample. And now a long quotation begins. Quote, "Fuck you right back, you fat, ugly, unfuckable, you misandrous, male-dumping, feminazi bitch. God, women like you are repulsive to men, which is why men punish you so severely by totally ignoring you, not even pumping and dumping you. Men don't want relationships with misandrous bitches like yourself. We men, at least we masculists, that is men's livers, want relationships with women who are snurfs, that's S-N-U-R-F-S, that is slim, nutritive, fips, who are sexy to look at, who are nice to us, treating us like our mothers did when we were small, and who are fips, who don't expect to manslave us like the fluffy vermin who we masculists leave rotting on the shelf. The only thing that is useful to masculists about a woman like you is to serve as an anti-model to young women. We masculists terrify young women, telling them that if they end up like you, then they will pay a very heavy price. They won't get a man. They will be forced to rot on the shelf, manless, loveless, sexless, babyless, spat at, and socially and sexually rejected. Women like you are repulsive to men, so we use you to scare young women not to be like you. You're fat. You care more about food than anything else.
That will shorten your life expectancy by a decade or more, you dumb fuck. You are a typical ugly feminist, a 4 out of 10 in looks, that so many of you feminazis are. So to slim quality men, you are unfuckable. Your misandrous male-dumping ideology makes you repulsive to men, so you get what you deserve from men, that is, nothing. If you do happen to have a boyfriend, then obviously he would need to be a male feminist. But mark my words, in only a few years, nearly all the male feminists today will have converted themselves into biconscious masculists, as masculist ideas keep spreading exponentially. If you remain the monoconscious feminazi bigot, that's MFB, you are today, then once your male feminist boyfriend has converted himself into a biconscious masculist, he will see you increasingly as bigoted, dogmatically sticking to the idea that gender oppression is a one-way street, which is what feminism has taught you all your life. He will then become disgusted with you and dump you. So it's in your self-interest to learn some masculist ideas so that you see that women oppress men far worse than vice versa. So you lose your monoconscious anger at men for the ways that men oppress women by learning a female masculist anger at women for the ways that women oppress men. So that you lose your current feminazi bitchiness so that you'll be more likely to keep your boyfriend / partner / husband. If you don't become biconscious, then you will be doomed to live out the rest of your life alone, manless, loveless, sexless, and spat at, as society, that is both sexes, has its masculist consciousness raised, learning how women oppress men with their many decades-lasting gender crimes against men. Because you are a fat, ugly, unfuckable, you are a repulsive creature to the masculists, who in time will be most men, who will be influenced by masculist ideas the way most women today have been influenced by feminist ideas. So if you remain a misandrous, male-dumping, feminazi bitch towards men, then we men, we masculists, will punish you severely. We will bite your fucking head off. We masculists are not motivated to be nice to women like you, since there is no way we would ever want to penis you. Women's only real attraction to men are their vaginas. Men have to be nice to women if men want to penis them, which men strongly want to do. But since you're a fat, ugly, misandrous, feminazi cunt, men avoid women like you like the plague. And since you're very probably heterosexual, you're dependent on men for sex. So the only men who will have sex with you will be the men of the very lowest SMV, that's sexual marketplace value, who are so desperate to put their penises in a woman that they will fuck anything, even a fat, ugly, unfuckable like yourself. So if you want to be penised by some quality man that your female hypergamous nature pushes you to mate with, then you had better quickly learn to become biconscious and slough off your monoconscious feminazi bigotry, or you will live the rest of your life manless and miserable, joining the quarter of middle-aged women who already take antidepressant drugs since their lives are so empty and miserable. You fluffy feminists have taken over the divorce courts and made divorce so toxic for men that you have made marriage and paternity toxic for men. So in many countries now, 2/3 of young men refuse to marry, reject paternity, and live the MGTOW, MGTOW, men going their own way, lifestyle, spending their money on themselves. That makes you fluffy feminists hypocrites, in brackets, who want equal rights with men in the parliaments but reject equal obligations with men by not bothering to fit up, close brackets. So you expect to remain fluffy manslaving parasites after the divorce the way you were before the divorce. That also makes you indirect genociders, since it is you who are the root cause of the crashing birth rate that is wiping out whole populations. We masculists teach young men to reject fluffies, to spit at them, and to certainly not give them their sperm. We Masculists teach young women to hate you fluffy feminist hypocrite genociders as much as men do by telling them you are the root cause of their babylessness. You have made the divorce courts toxic for men, hence have made marriage and paternity toxic for men. So men refuse to give women their sperm, since they utterly reject the one chance in 4 of being financially massacred and have his life ruined in the hated fluffy feminist controlled divorce courts. When both sexes hate you fluffy feminist monoconscious misandrous male dumping shits, then you will be killed off. The Masculists will scream abuse at you, casting you out of society. You are seen as hypocrites, manslavers and genociders. If the birth rate really crashes and whole populations face the imminent extinction, then Masculist soldiers will go out into the streets and simply shoot feminazi vermin like yourself. So, you hated misandrous feminazi bitch, you hated hypocritical genocider, go fuck yourself. Literally, because no man will, and certainly no Masculist will, which will be most men as time passes. You'll be forced to become biconscious, or ultimately you'll be killed. So crawl off into some corner, you hated, monoconscious, misandrous, male-dumping, fat, ugly, unfuckable bitch, and die. End quote. Dash dash. We can expect millions of such Masculist diatribes in the coming years, as very angry Masculists express their hatred at such women, not holding back on expressing their full male verbal aggression with full testosterone verbal force to wipe such women off the face of the earth to save humanity from dying out. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Author of the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Manslaves to Women, an e-textbook of 480 plus Masculist flyers for men's studies courses, freely downloadable in Microsoft Word format from my website. Ciao.